Gypsy Rose Blanchard might have thought that walking off parole meant turning the page, but the moment the ankle monitor came off, reality came rushing in fast, and it didn't come quietly. The internet was ready, watching, and they weren't in the mood for fairy tales. Whatever picture Gypsy had painted in her mind of a smooth transition into freedom was shattered within days, because instead of a calm, reflective fresh start, what followed was a storm of drama, damage control, and desperate storytelling. Even before her parole officially ended, she was already diving headfirst into the chaos. She didn't wait for the world to ask questions, she beat everyone to the punch, hopping on live streams to control the narrative before anyone else could. And what was the focus this time? Ken. The man she had talked about non-stop, the one who was supposedly going to propose the moment she got out. Except, that proposal never came. Gypsy jumped on live with an excuse locked and loaded. Ken didn't propose because it was Mia's birthday.
On the show, I feel like I have to make this announcement because it's like, I feel like so many people are expecting it. I know on the show, Ken was looking at rings. Okay, whether he got a ring or not, I don't know. He hasn't told me that. But in the show, he said like, he would like propose once like I get off parole. Well, tomorrow is my sister's birthday. So tomorrow he is not proposing on my sister's birthday. I do know that. I do not know when or if he will, but he is not doing it tomorrow. Just to clarify. Honestly, I just like, I don't think that he will though. Like, I mean maybe like later down the line or something, but all I'm saying is like, I'm not expecting it right now. So, and it's not because things are like bad or anything. Things are great, but I think like maybe I'm just at a point where I'm like, it's been this long. I don't know, but I do know that it won't be tomorrow. So if he has plans next week, next month, I'm gonna be totally caught off guard because I'm not expecting it at all. So just wanted to make that PSA announcement. He's not proposing tomorrow. Anyone else want to add anything?
That was the story she ran with, straight-faced, as if that would explain why the big moment everyone had been expecting was suddenly cancelled. But let's not forget, this was the same Ken who had been on television ring shopping, looking the jeweler dead in the eye and saying he was ready to get engaged the minute Gypsy walked free. That was supposed to be his big romantic gesture. And now, poof, it's off the table? All because a kid had a birthday? It didn't take long for people to call out how absurd it sounded. The comments were brutal, and they didn't hold back. What became clear is that Gypsy knew this proposal wasn't happening. She likely knew it for a while. Ken had been giving mixed signals for months, showing up just enough to keep the spotlight warm but never really stepping up. So when the day came and there was no ring, no big "I do," she panicked. Instead of sitting in that truth, she made up a convenient excuse. It was a way to soften the blow before the public could drag her for it. She tried to stay one step ahead of the humiliation, but no one was fooled. The internet had seen this pattern before. And then, as if that wasn't messy enough, Gypsy turned her attention to Nick Gojon. Just days after walking free, she posted what can only be described as a manifesto, pages of carefully crafted language aimed at painting Nick as the ultimate villain. She opened with claims of accountability, saying she owed nothing to the past, but everything that followed made it crystal clear, she wasn't owning anything. She was rewriting the entire story. She called Nick dangerous, unstable, and manipulative, repeating again and again that he knew what he was doing. What she left out was the reality, that Nick had an autism diagnosis, significant cognitive impairments, and was on disability for his mental health. But Gypsy didn't mention any of that. When it came to her own choices, her behavior was chalked up to trauma. Not intentional, not calculated, just the fallout of her pain. So her trauma makes her innocent, but Nick's mental state doesn't even get acknowledged? The double standard was glaring.
Since Gypsy Rose released those emails the other day when she wrote that horrible message on Instagram and TikTok that is still posted to this very day about taking accountability and that Nick is a monster and this, that, and the other, I was just watching TikTok and I came across a few different TikToks actually, but mainly Fancy. And I know a lot of people have their opinions about her, but she has some good evidence. She really does. Anyways, she was telling TikTok, the video, she was saying that her and a couple other ladies were comparing emails from the jail where Nick is at and the emails that Gypsy showed on TikTok the other day looked different. in comparison to everybody else's emails, which would mean she altered them, or someone altered them. Made it look like possibly Nick wrote some horrible things. I don't know if this is factual. She did say that she is looking into it more, but I would not put that past Gypsy Rose whatsoever. Now, Bree and Gypsy want to throw Fancy under the bus so bad and say that Fancy was the one that sent Dawn to do the messaging back and forth with Nick. But Dawn came to her, actually, and handed over those emails, which is kind of sus, because I don't really know the details of it. I really don't. But it just seems sus to me. Because if Dawn was in on it with Bree and Gypsy and all this, it's a lot deeper than we think or know. They could have possibly altered them emails to make them look very much real. But if you know anything about the prison system, you would know, because I know, that you cannot write things like that. Especially on JPay. That's what that service was that he was using from that prison. It's called JPay. They get on like a tablet or a computer, monitor, whatever, and they email back and forth to family and friends. And either they or the family and friend can pay for it. I know from experience. I've been to prison. My ex has been to prison. I know a lot about it. Specifically JPay, because where I was at for a long time, that's what we had. But they filter and go through those. You can't write stuff like that at all. You will get in trouble. So it just really makes me question if those were even real. If they weren't, and Gypsy Rose had something to do with that, which I'm sure she did, that is beyond low. If you don't know what email I'm talking about, go back and watch Gypsy's, it's on my page, but the post where she posted the day she got off parole. She waited so long to write that video and post it about accountability and Nicholas being a horrible person and this, that, and the other, and whatever. Do I think, honestly, in my opinion, did she do that? Absolutely. I honestly 100% do, but I can't prove it. I don't know. I'll keep y'all updated. Like I said, I watched Fancy's video and she did say that they were going to look into it more. But I mean, I can just go off, just telling you off my word and experience that using JPay, like I said, they go through them emails. You can't write stuff like that because what he wrote was, or what he supposedly wrote, you can't write that and not get in trouble. It don't make sense. So something is really weird about that. Anyway, just a thought. What do y'all think? Because nothing would surprise me these days with her. She obviously waited a really long time to post all that about him. And it was just a horrible thing to do on the day you got off parole. Like, girl, you are obviously so bothered. Obviously, you've been keeping up with him. And obviously, you watched that video about his court hearings and all that.
She went even further, digging up Nick's old prison letters and using bits of them to prove how twisted he supposedly was. She highlighted his alter ego, twisted his words, and made him look like a lurking predator. But people didn't forget who started the fire. If Nick was so dangerous, why was Gypsy the one whispering in his ear that the only way they could be together was if he killed her mother? Why was she the one sending explicit videos, playing out violent fantasies under the name of an alter ego she created herself? None of that made it into her post. What we got instead was a long-winded attempt to separate herself from the murder she helped orchestrate. It wasn't about the truth, it was about control. About shifting the blame just far enough to keep her image intact. And if all that wasn't enough, Gypsy topped it all off with a celebration that made jaws drop. She wasted no time showing the world what freedom looked like to her. Out at the bars, surrounded by her closest friends, especially Bree, drinks were flowing non-stop. They partied like it was a Vegas bachelorette trip gone wild, shots lined up, glasses clinking, laughter echoing in every Instagram story. Every time a glass hit the table, another one took its place. And yet, Gypsy kept insisting it was her first time drinking. She said it over and over, like she wanted to remind people she was new to this. But the way she threw back those drinks? The confidence, the ease, it didn't scream first-timer. It screamed someone trying very hard to appear carefree, unbothered, and in control.
Guys, that last shot done me in.
Yeah.
She's acting like me when I'm on edibles.
Jesus Christ.
Modesty passion.
I know. Jeez! Y'all didn't tell me they told you to leave.
Oh god.
Okay, so we're getting should we do a BJ shot?
Yes.
Already did.
Yes.
Nice.
No,
Do it. You can do it, Gypsy. You have plenty of practice.
Come on, girl, you can do it.
Did she hear me?
You can't tell me you haven't done this shit with no your hands before.
I was gonna
Come
say
on
you
now.
can do it. You have plenty of practice, Gypsy.
Exactly. Don't pretend. Don't pretend. Don't pretend you can't do it with no hands. Come on, girl.
But that's the thing. For someone so focused on appearances, Gypsy's actions only raised more questions. Instead of stepping into her new chapter with grace or clarity, she launched straight into distraction mode. parties, PR stunts, and one-sided stories. And while she may think she's taken back the narrative, what's really happened is clear. The more she talks, the more people remember. Gypsy Rose Blanchard might have thought the end of her parole meant she could finally breathe easy, but the world had other plans. The second that ankle monitor came off, the spotlight hit harder than ever, and this time, there was no hiding behind sympathy or courtroom trauma. Whatever fairy tale she had in mind quickly unraveled. Her new chapter wasn't calm or redemptive, it was loud, chaotic, and messier than anyone expected. Before the dust even settled, Gypsy was already back online. No pause, no privacy, just a rush to speak first, to steer the narrative before the internet had a chance to dig in. And what did she come out swinging with? Ken. The same Ken who had supposedly been planning a big romantic proposal the second she walked free. He'd been on reality TV, ring shopping, telling the cameras exactly when and how it would happen. It was a whole thing, but when the day came, nothing. No ring. No big moment. Just Gypsy on live, casually brushing it off with an excuse that didn't land for a second. Her explanation? That Ken didn't propose because it was Mia's birthday. That's right, she tried to pass off a child's birthday as the reason a nationally teased engagement got cancelled. The internet wasn't having it. Comment sections lit up like wildfire, and people instantly clocked it for what it was, a rushed attempt to cover up a very public letdown. Truth is, Gypsy probably knew for a while that Ken wasn't going to go through with it. He'd been distant, inconsistent, never fully showing up the way a real partner would. But instead of facing that head-on, she tried to get ahead of the inevitable backlash. It was a clear-cut case of spin, paint it like she was in control, that she had the explanation, even if it didn't make sense. And it backfired, because no one was fooled. The audience had seen enough of her patterns by now to recognize when she was scrambling. And if that wasn't enough chaos for 1 week, Gypsy then turned around and aimed her next public statement directly at Nick Gojon. In a lengthy, carefully worded post, she tried to reframe the entire situation with him, again. She claimed she had taken accountability and had nothing left to explain about her past. But what followed wasn't accountability, it was a calculated attempt to distance herself completely from the person she once called her soulmate. She portrayed Nick as dangerous, manipulative, and fully responsible, completely ignoring the fact that he had a documented autism diagnosis and severe cognitive delays. He was receiving disability checks and functioning with real limitations, but none of that made it into her retelling. When it came to her, everything was blamed on trauma. But for Nick? No grace, no understanding. Just blame. She even brought out old prison letters, quoting lines that sounded strange without context, and tried to use them as proof of how unstable he supposedly was. She mentioned his alter ego and twisted his words to paint him as some lurking predator. But the internet didn't forget who lit the match. If he was so monstrous, why was she the one sending him explicit videos, crafting alter egos, and whispering that the only way they could be together was if he killed her mom? That part? Magically erased from her story. Instead, she pushed a version where she was helpless, manipulated, and now wise enough to walk away clean. But people noticed. They remembered the original story. And this sudden rewrite felt less like growth and more like image management. Then came the celebration. Gypsy didn't ease into freedom, she cannonballed into it. Straight to the bars, surrounded by her crew, acting like she was living out a college girl's dream weekend. Drinks were flowing non-stop, and every clip that surfaced showed her laughing, dancing, taking shots like she'd done this 100 times before. And yet, she kept insisting it was her first drink ever. She repeated it like it was supposed to make the whole scene look innocent. But let's be honest, the way she was downing drinks and carrying herself didn't scream first-timer. It screamed someone trying really hard to come off as carefree, confident, and in control of the narrative. Like if she just smiled big enough, laughed loud enough, and posted enough selfies, no one would notice how carefully she was dodging real accountability. It didn't take much for the internet to completely lose it. And when it did, it was chaos's full-blown, can't look away kind of chaos. Comment sections went up in flames. Reddit turned into a 24/7 circus, and TikTok lives were flooding the app like back-to-back breaking news coverage. Everyone was scrambling to figure out what the hell just happened. Suddenly, the wildest theories started flying. Was this all some twisted game from the start? Had I been secretly working with Gypsy this whole time, pretending to call her out while quietly slipping her information behind the scenes? Or maybe she made some last-minute deal, money, a brand offer, a documentary deal nobody saw coming. Or maybe, it wasn't about money at all, maybe she just snapped. The constant heat from the public, the relentless hate, the pressure of always being in the middle of an internet war, maybe it finally cracked something in her. Maybe, in a moment of desperation, she decided the only way to survive the fire was to run straight into it. Make peace with the very person she once blamed for everything. Even if it meant betraying every follower who ever stood in her corner. And let's be honest, it wasn't some small switch-up. It cut deep. Fans felt it. People who had defended her like ride or dies were now sitting in silence, wondering if they'd been used the whole time. All that support, all that loyalty, just to end up blindsided. The sense of betrayal? Real. Raw. Personal. This was one of those moments that reminds you exactly how unpredictable the internet can be. Just when you think you know who's on your side, the script flips. Today's victim becomes tomorrow's ally of the enemy. And suddenly, everything you thought was solid turns out to be smoke. No one saw it coming. But maybe, just maybe, the red flags were always there. Now here's the twist, Gypsy isn't backing away from the mess. If anything, she's turning up the volume. She's calling this just the beginning. And honestly, that's the part that's got people nervous. Because if this, the drinking, the fake accountability, the messy friendships, the public flip-flopping, is just the prologue, what does she have up her sleeve next? Every time it seems like she's reached the bottom of the drama barrel, she digs deeper. Whether it's stirring things up with Ken, picking fights with her critics, or dragging Nick's name through the dirt for the 100th time, Gypsy isn't stepping out of the spotlight anytime soon. But what she might not realize is, the internet hasn't moved on. Not even close. We're still watching. Still calling out the lies. Still piecing together every twist. So if she really thinks the world's going to forget, or that she can twist the narrative into something softer and shinier, she's in for a shock. This isn't over. Not even close. And if the past few weeks were just the warm-up, we're bracing ourselves. Because the storm's not done. In fact, it might just be getting started.